What's up, y'all? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. So it seems that this Rey Solo theory just will not go away. There are lots of people in the Star Wars fandom who really want to see this happen. Rey Solo being the daughter of Han Solo in some way, shape, or form. And I guess it's based on them seeing the connection that Han had with Rey and then wanting some form of the Solo twins in Ben Solo and Rey, right? So, I mean, I've even seen people who are the hardcore Star Wars fans, the Star Wars feminist fans, the people who claim to hate everything that Disney is doing with Star Wars fans. So it sounds like this Rey Solo thing is like the front where everyone will come together and squash all of their beef. But I've always been one who said I don't really see how it's going to happen. I don't see how Rey Solo is possible, and I've debunked it numerous times. And it seems that this latest iteration of the Rey Solo theory that people have been saying we're going to see or could see in Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, is also going to be debunked. So let me tell you how this works. So Rey Solo being the daughter of Han Solo, what they've said is that Han and Leia had some sort of separation shortly after Ben leaves to go train with Uncle Luke and go off to Jedi camp, right? During this time that they are separated, Han engages in an affair with another woman. He fathers a child. That child is Rey. Somehow Rey ends up on Jakku, and it's no coincidence. She's there on Jakku, so is the Millennium Falcon. Ben finds out that he's got a stepsister somewhere out there, that Han, doing the smuggler's run thing, literally did a smuggler's run and ran up in somebody, made a baby, and that baby somewhere possibly on Jakku with the Millennium Falcon. And when Ben finds out about it, now he's on the outs with his father, right? And maybe possibly Leia knows, and this causes just a rift in the family. He's got beef. He can't believe that his father, the great hero, the general of the rebellion, the person he's looked up to, because Ben wanted to be a pilot. He didn't really want to be a Jedi, but he's off, training to be a Jedi, and his hero has let him down, right? And he's got this mysterious sibling somewhere out there. And Leia is either none the wiser, or she's just completely accepting, and she's not gonna kick him to the curb, right? So this sets up the conflict within the family, right? And now Ben wants to burn it all down. And so when he's talking about, in the Force Awakens, when he's probing Rey's mind, and he's seeing how she looks up to Han, and he's saying, don't get your hopes up, he'll let you down, just like he let me down, because he cheated on my mom, he fathered this kid, and through the interaction, through seeing her mind, her thoughts, her history, her background, he's realizing this is her. And so that's when he reaches out. You need a teacher. The Force is strong with you. You need a teacher. I can teach you the Force as my sister, right? And so the initial attraction that the Reylo people are seeing between them, maybe the initial attraction that Kylo Ren, that Ben Solo sees to Rey, feels to Rey, is really because she's his sister. Just like there was an initial budding romance and attraction between Luke and Leia, but then they find out that they're twins, right? The Skywalker twins. That attraction is because, dude, this is your sister, and this is the Force bringing you all together. But as humans, that initial attraction between two people, we might not understand it. And between a man and a woman, it's the first thing is it's a sexual attraction, right? Because that's the basis form. Why else would I want to be around this person? I'm attracted to them sexually. And then you get into the deeper thing, the deeper attraction, the deeper relationship, right? And this sounds kind of weird to you. There's a something in Aristotle about like how young men and young women can't really be true friends because of a sexual attraction. And then as they get older, right, as they're according to this, as women kind of take on more testosterone and men their testosterone production starts to decrease, diminish, right? Men become more like women and women become more like men as we get older, right? We become more androgynous, and we're looking at, our mortality, and so men and women are able to form deeper connections as friends. It's easier for men and women to be friends as they get older. That's Aristotle said that. I don't remember what book, but I remember discussing that when I was in college, right? So there's something to that, right? When we look at Luke and Leia, they start, oh, there's a princess and she's hot and we got to go save the princess, and the kissing and everything. Of course, we could also talk about George Lucas, and initially Luke and Leia weren't sisters because Leia was not, siblings, because Leia was not going to be a Skywalker. There was going to be another Luca Skywalker, Luke's twin sister, who had been raised as a Jedi from birth. She had been training her whole life, right? Luke's sister was going to be the more powerful of the two. That was George's initial plans, initial intentions for the sequel saga. I've said this previously in older videos, but some of y'all are brand new, so I needed to establish that. So this would kind of mirror what happened between Luke and Leia, right? That Reylo is literally Rey Solo, sister of Ben Solo. But I've always said that I don't think that happened, right? In order for that to happen, we've got to make up this event, right? And as soon as you start introducing events that may not have happened, then the question is, well, what if that didn't happen? What if that's not part of the story, right? When you got to assume something, it's like, well, if I've got to assume this did happen, I can also assume it didn't happen, right? Because Pablo Hidalgo has stepped in within the last few days of this really catching fire and really lighting a fire in the fandom that, yo, man, we're going to find out that Rey and Ben are brother and sister, that they're step siblings, that Han fathered this, got hooked up with a lady while he and Leia were separated. And it's like, but that's not what happened. Han was doing his thing. Leia was doing his thing before Ben burned the Jedi Order down and Luke went off and went looking for Ahch-To and he joined the First Order. Before the space divorce or the space separation between Leia and Han, they were faithful to each other. Han would go off and do his thing as a smuggler, well, he wasn't even smuggling, I don't think. I think he was just off running, doing Han's thing, right? He can't stay still. And Leia's doing her work, as a senator to rebuild, as a politician to rebuild the Republic, the new Republic, working for Mon Mothma and the chancellors who came after Mon Mothma after she stepped down due to health reasons and age, right? But even when we look at Bloodline, they're apart, but Han is running the races. But then Han comes to the rescue and saves Leia, and then they have their moments together, and and they're like, we could really just, well, we don't have to do any of this. We could just get on a ship and just sail off and go on adventures together. And Leia's like, well, the last time we did that, we were on the Falcon, and 9 months later, there came Ben, right? So they appeared to be still happily in love. They did their thing. They were apart, but when they were together, they were together. And when they were apart, they were completely faithful to each other. And what Pablo Hidalgo says is that the timeline doesn't add up based on what's being said, that they were separated, because there wasn't a separation. There wasn't a separation until Ben left and joined the First Order. And when Ben left and joined the First Order, Rey was already 14 years old. If it was a 5-year period, Rey was 14 years old. If the events in Bloodline were 5 years before the Awakening, before the Force Awakens, And the thing that pushed Ben over the edge was learning the truth about Anakin, that he was Vader. And Snoke this whole time has been working on him, and now Ben has a reason not to trust his family, not to trust Luke, especially not to trust, because all this bad stuff happened because Vader and his sentiment, his love for Luke, you know, look at all the bad stuff. Your family might be together. You know, Snoke could have twisted Ben any kind of way he wanted to at that point and pinned it all on Luke, because it's, if you take out Luke for me, that's my threat to rising as the supreme leader. The Jedi can't stop me. No one can stop us as long as Luke is out of the way, and I need you to do it, Ben. And I'm going to tell you how great Vader was, and you can be the new Vader, right? That's the way you get to Ben. And all of that happened within the 5 years before the awakening. So Rey was already 14 years old. She was already there on Jakku. I'm sorry, y'all. The connection between Han and Rey is not because she's his stepdaughter, and the connection between Leia and Rey is because they acknowledged each other through the Force and their love for Han Solo. You know, Rey looked up to him. She would have looked up to him as a great pilot. She would have heard stories about him as the great smuggler. You know, there as a scavenger there on Jakku, she would have heard all these amazing stories because she looked up to pilots, right? She also looked up to Luke, but, you know, Han the smuggler, Han the pirate, Han the great pilot, Han who did, you know, the Kessel Run in under 14 parsecs, it was 12. She would have looked up to him, right? And then she gets to meet him. She got to meet two of her heroes, Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, who had become like a patron saint to scavengers on Jakku. That's from the Legends of Luke Skywalker, right? That's initially how the Church of the Force got started there. The Tuono villagers and the Church of the Force got started there on Jakku. It had nothing to do with Lord Santeca. When he retired there, they had already been there. He wasn't the leader. He didn't start it, nothing. He was just looking for a place to go hang out and be a hermit, right? He'd been adventuring and everything. This is where I'm going to go chill out and wait for Poe to come and meet me. And it was a coincidence, the ways of the Force, right? That he was there, that the Millennium Falcon's there, that Rey was there. They all just happened to show up there around the same time in all these events. And that's Star Wars, right? So this Rey Solo thing, I'm sorry, y'all. It's Rey of Jakku. She's Rey of Jakku. And what we learned in one of the Vader comic books from the Jocasta Nu, the Jedi librarian, she said that, look, at any point in time, the Force can raise up a new person to a new ray of light in the Force to rebirth the Jedi and lead them into the next generation. And I'm gonna put all this stuff here. I've hidden away something to make that possible. Luke found it. Ben tried to destroy it. But Rey got the source, right? And it's, well, we're gonna erase the mistakes of the past Jedi and get back to the beginning. And that's what Rey is. And she's no one, right? Because at any point in time, anyone can rise up and be the hero to the next generation. I've got a great way to fix the issue with Rey's parents that leaves people uneasy. She doesn't have to be related to anyone special, right? To be special. But it's, you know, people have this thing about her being no one and her parents abandoned her and everything else. So, you know, I talked about that in the live stream video. I didn't go into the details. Maybe I'll talk about it on next week's podcast that'll get live streamed on Sunday. We'll see. Or maybe I'll just make it its own video. I don't know. You guys tell me. You want me to talk about it in the live stream? Or you want me to make it its own separate video and get it up in the next couple of days? So I'll leave it at that. Anyway, what do you guys think? Were you excited about the possibility that we were going to learn that Rey and Ben were going to be stepsisters, possibly in The Rise of Skywalker? Or are you happy that Pablo has basically stepped in and debunked this and said, look, none of this adds up with the timeline. Han and Leia were not separated previously before Ben completely turned to the dark side. And like I've said on another Rey Solo video, that Han and Leia were completely faithful to each other. Even when they were separated from each other during that 5-year period, they were still faithful to one another. So I don't know, though. That's all I've got to say about this one. I'd like to hear from you. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be checking back to see what y'all have to say. And if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Embark on the journey of becoming the hero of your own story and become a force for change in your community. You can continue to support the channel by checking out more videos on this channel, and make sure you share this with your friends if you really like it. So that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always.